in 20 years' time, if someone came to you, Charlie, and said, you know what, you're going to have a really shit year. You know, it's going to cost you a lot of money. The world's going to change, but I'm going to give you, 6 months at home, chilling out with your family and kids. Would you take it? Fuck yeah. Because you're never going to get that time again.
That was Matt Moran, and you're listening to The Regenerative Journey. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and internationally, and their continuing connection to culture, community, land, sea and sky. And we pay our respects to elders past, present and future.
G'day, I'm your host Charlie Arnott, and in this podcast series I'll be uncovering the world of regenerative agriculture, its people, practices and principles, and empowering you to apply their learnings and experience to your business and life. I'm an 8th generational Australian farmer who transitioned my family farm from industrial methods to holistic regenerative practices. Join me as I dive deep into the regenerative journeys of other farmers, chefs, health practitioners and anyone else who's up for a yarn, and find out why and how they transition to a more regenerative way of life.
Welcome to The Regenerative Journey with Charlie Arnott.
G'day, super pumped to have interviewed Matt Moran, the, dare I say, world famous chef, all-round good guy, one of the original paddock to plate chefs that turned it into a TV series and has done some amazing things in his illustrious and long career, even though he's quite a young rooster, really. I sat with Matt at his one of his signature restaurants, Chiswick in Mallara in Sydney, and had a wonderful chat with him, looking out over his veggie garden, eyeing off the world famous Mallara pineapple that had been growing for some years there. We did actually later that day harvest that pineapple and eat it. It was absolutely delicious. So we covered a whole lot of ground. Matt's early inspiration, I guess, where he got his inspiration, which was actually very funny, not what you'd expect, to be honest. And, his early childhood was on his farm, on a number of farms with his family, and then going full circle back to a farm out towards Bathurst. I let him fill in all the details. We talked about COVID. We gave me a few tips and tricks on cooking, which I certainly need. We had a really good powwow, actually. I really enjoyed it, sitting there with Matt, who is, I have to say, one of the most down-to-earth people and chefs that I've met. He is very well known, very successful, for good reason, but at the same time is absolutely grounded and sort of guy could jump on a bike and go burning all over the place. And just a good solid bloke. He's been able to keep his feet very firmly on the ground. And just before we jump into the interview with Matt, I just want to tell you about one of his projects that I'm involved in called Kitchen Tales. It's on Matt's YouTube channel, Chef Matt Moran, and it's all about him inviting buddies into his kitchen to talk about their childhood and their food memories. My episode is on the 30th of November. That's Monday. Other guests of Matt's were Deb Hutton, Maine West, Sam and Ellie Studd, Brooke Boney, Sam Elsom, and Kate Peck. So I'm up there, second last one. So late November, 30th of November. Jump on YouTube, subscribe to his wonderful channel there, learn all about some cool other cooking stuff. The other thing I want to give a plug is to the girls from Straight to the Source, Lucy Allen and Tonya Barr, have for some time had a business called Straight to the Source. Both girls are involved in the delicious Australia, that wonderful magazine, and food movement. The girls have made it easy for people, not just chefs and hospitality professionals as they used to, but also now anyone who eats food. That's pretty much anyone in the world can get online to Straight to the Source and access and understand and create relationships with the farmers and producers. It's a wonderful thing. Jump on the Straight to the Source website, subscribe to their wonderful regular newsletter called The Source. It's a wonderful thing. And finally, there is a platform getting us back in touch with our food. It's a wonderful thing. Here we go. Off to Matt Moran. Matt Moran, welcome to your restaurant. here at Chiswick in Willara is the scene of many I was going to say culinary crimes, but probably dining and client crimes. I know I've had a few here back in its Prunier days.
Mate, if the walls could talk, and a lot of these walls, a lot of them are old, but a lot of them aren't. When we took this place over, actually, we spent about 18 months renovating it, and make sure I can hear me, and basically spent a lot of money on this joint, making it look old again. But this is one of the oldest restaurants in the country. This was a restaurant it was called Chiswick Gardens in 1929, and a woman had it, and it used to be a bit of like a soup kitchen for the Navy guys down at Woolloomooloo, who used to come up here and they used to feed them.
They trek up the hill.
And then someone donated it to the council, and that's why, the gardens are here. But it is, people say, why Chiswick, or Chiswick as a lot of people call it, which is fine.
People at Boorowa say, and this is fine too, Boorowa people, Canberra, not Canberra. Canberra, off to Canberra. Where? Oh, Canberra. Oh, right.
Yeah, right.
Or broccoli.
Where?
Instead of broccoli. Broccoli.
Right. It's just put it under one label, brassica.
That's it.
So yeah, it was a soup kitchen, and we took it over in 10, I think, and then renovated, opened around 12. And that garden there, actually, you'd be interested in that, because that's our beautiful veggie garden. You can see the pineapple that we're going to cut a little bit later.
It's screaming to be harvested.
It is. It's screaming, and I've been a bit slack because I've been a bit busy. But we can't have anyone out there sitting because of the neighbours, and it was because this used to be the bar, and that used to be a brick wall there, so you could never see out to that courtyard, backyard thing. And we decided to put a garden in there, and then we got it all tested, and there was a heap of lead in there. So we basically had to dig that out completely, and then put all new soil in it, and that's all all organic and all the niceties that we want, and it basically dictates what we've got on the menu.
And it's food meters. We're not talking miles here, are we?
Yeah, food meters.
Food meters, like it's literally. I need some more.
Yeah.
Of the what's that one there called?
It's a little bit of mustard.
Mustardy,
yeah. Mustard. That I love that, because the older it gets, and once you cut it and you get the second sort of cutting of it, it gets a lot stronger. It's like rocket.
Yeah.
It gets a bit stronger.
Nasturtian flowers.
Nasturtian, yeah.
Fresh white bread, butter, nasturtian flour.
Yeah. I think there's some potatoes up the back there too. Look, we had a little bit of the garden go missing for a couple of months during COVID, and we had a lot of stuff growing there, which was great, because I'm the only one that had keys to it, so I was coming nicking beans and lettuces.
But everyone knew about it because you were videoing it.
That's true. They were too. But yeah, look, it was just replanted a bit of stuff there now, and I'm sure what he's got in there. There were some radishes and some stuff in there. We had blotti beans that went off this year.
Oh, nice.
And tomatoes, I reckon we got about 80 kilos over summer. Little bloom ones. God, they were good.
And this is not a big garden. It's probably 5 by 8, if that, meters.
Probably 50 square metres. Yeah, maybe a bit more. It goes around the back there, but I've got some watercress there. But the whole idea was, people think, you're so lucky you're getting produce out of there and you're not having to pay for it. The garden cost me $100,000 a year, I reckon. So it's only done for, apart from the herbs and stuff we get all the time, it's just what it does to Charlie, and it's a great thing to learn, is where it makes the chefs accountable for what is in season. So whatever we're talking to Peter Hatfield, the gardener, and what we're growing, the guys have to use it on the menu. And, prior to that, and I was guilty of it, 15, 20 years ago, where we started growing real asparagus in Australia, and, not from the tin. And Edgels. And we're using asparagus during, the months that we should. And then, we'd be lazy and it would go out of season, and then we'd be buying it from Peru and Mexico. And then, it really dawned on me one day. It's like, I remember salmon also, another thing. You used to get it for 6 weeks of the year, Atlantic salmon, then 3 months, and then 6 months, and then 12 months, and you see it in the supermarket bloody everywhere. and it lost its sort of it lost its romance, and it lost its sort of being exclusive, and it lost its seasonality. And to me, it was quite sad, because now when I think of asparagus, and I don't let the guys buy it from Peru or Mexico or wherever else,
unless they go there.
Unless they go there, they can use it then. But what it does do now, it makes me excited to actually, when it first comes in season, and you get really excited because you really want to use it and you really want to cherish it. And then when it goes, you kind of think, well, I'm going to look forward to it when it comes back again. And I've been guilty of those sort of things for years. I remember, and when it's in season, it's coming in. I always say to everyone, it's my favourite thing on earth. It's like when figs come in season. Figs are my favourite fruit. No question.
Yeah.
But then the next month, peaches come in. Oh, peaches are my favourite fruit, and then mangoes come in. But you said no. These are my favourite because they're there. And then you get white peaches, and then white peaches are my favourite.
Yeah.
So it's just a perpetual ongoing thing when you start seeing things, and that's when you get excited. And to me, I think that's the most important thing with food.
Well, you're maintaining the joy all throughout the year, aren't you?
You are.
The expectation, and there's the satisfaction,
and also it's as a restaurateur business person, it makes bloody sense.
Totally.
Because you're paying top dollar for it because it comes from overseas, and when things are in season, let's face it, the first mangoes you see when they come in are pretty average, bloody expensive. In the middle of the season, there's shitloads of them, and they're really cheap.
Good. Yeah, and they're good.
And at the end of it, they get expensive again. So as a business person, it makes sense too. So when we talk to Peter about what we're growing, and you can see the little alphabet things around, the little and there's a map that you get on your menu, and it'll tell you what you're eating,
where it's
and
from,
where it's actually from in the garden.
That's
and
unreal.
Of course, we don't really have enough to go around, but we get quite a decent cut every now and then.
So normally, without the COVID going on, the door would be open. People could wander in and have a look.
Look, we can see there's locks. That's to try and keep my chef mates out from pinching stuff.
You need a bit of barb on the top.
Yeah, a little bit of barb. Look, we do open up and take people out and have a bit of a wander around and whatever, and everything's edible in there. There's nothing that you can't eat. So every little flower in there's an edible flower, and there's no weeds there, I don't think, but everything's there you can at least eat. And I can't see my little butterflies that we put on that turn around, because butterflies are very territorial. So we've got little things, and they're artificial, and they just, by the wind and solar, they just spin around.
Really?
So butterflies think it's another butterfly. So
they won't go there.
They won't go there.
I haven't heard about that.
Yeah. I didn't realise butterflies were territorial. What they
so
are.
they're those white cabbage moth, the little white ones? Or?
Yeah, you get lots of those in there.
If you plant pennyroyal in your garden, it's a ground dwelling thing, nice and low, and when you tread on it, it emits this beautiful smell, and that deters the thing. And so often, in a companion planting situation, you have your cabbages, and then you have pennyroyal. The thing is, it goes bananas and takes over your garden.
I've always wanted to put a chook or a couple of chooks in there.
Oh yeah,
and
don't put a rooster in there.
No.
Your neighbours.
But then after being at your place, I thought of some guinea fowl.
Oh, mate, they're unreal.
Yeah.
No snails. I have not seen this. I used to go around the garden with a bucket and collecting snails in the morning to give to the chickens.
Right.
Forget it, all gone. Snails.
Yeah, we have some snails in there.
Yeah, throw a couple of them in there.
Yeah.
But they're pretty noisy too. Your neighbours won't like you for that.
They are they?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
right.
Guinea fowl, my God. Great for snakes, but when they crank up, they're like any of our listeners who've got guinea fowl, you'll know, you sort of a love-hate, because you love having them because they're so useful, but they're bloody noise.
Are they really? Oh, the neighbours wouldn't like that.
No.
We don't have a snake problem here, not the ones on the ground anyway, being in Malara. I've never seen a snake here. We have, I don't know about up here, but we have a massive issue on the coast, from pretty much from Maroubra all the way to Bondi there with foxes.
Oh, yeah, backyards.
A lot of foxes, yeah.
Well, we spend a fair bit of time in Brunt.
There's my butterfly.
Oh, there
around
it is.
D. See?
Is that just start going? Oh, the sun's just hit
Sun's hit it.
There you go. Fascinating.
Yeah.
Mate, we better
talk.
We better talk. You've pretty much answered 12 of my questions already. No. I was just going to say, this interview nearly didn't happen, Matt, because a couple of months ago, a friend of mine sent me a post or a little video that you were involved in about about COVID and not doing podcasts. Remember that?
Mate, it was quite funny that because the Chaser boys who I know, and every now and then they get me to do a little cameo here and there and whatever else, and they just said, will you be part of this? And you know, I've done a heap of podcasts already, and I just thought it was a bit funny. And I thought, you know what, a bit funny. I've got a sense of humour. I copped a lot of flack.
Did you?
And they copped a lot of flack.
It was hilarious.
And I thought it was funny. But there was, because it's ABC, and everyone's like, you know, there was about 200 comments on my Twitter about, you know, D-grade celebrities. Some of were D-grade celebrities, didn't even know I was one, but anyway. And, you know, why are the ABC wasting their money on that? And I think, I didn't get paid.
Yeah, hang on.
And it was just funny how people were really like, you know, how insensitive are you at this point in time? I'm like, let's get over it. It's just a bit of a joke, and we didn't get paid for it. And I thought it was funny, and yeah, it's just funny how there's a lot of haters out there, you know.
And that's something that seems to be getting a little bit of momentum, and we don't have to dwell on it too much. But that's where, you know, you sort of like you step out of line, you say the wrong thing. I mean, what's wrong, what's right, and then it's quite taxing having to be so aware of everyone else's needs and prejudices. It's like, you know, at the end of the day, then I remind myself and say, well, if you don't have a few enemies, you're not having a go.
Yeah,
you know? Right. So
yeah, I think COVID's brought the worst out of people and the best. And the only other day I was in Kemmeny's car park, and this poor old lady, about 75, was trying to reverse into a car spot. She was in front of me, and I was coming in. There was a guy that was being blocked, and she just couldn't do it. And the husband got out, and he's trying to direct her, and this guy's bipping. I was actually a bit frustrated. First 5 or 6 times she tried to do it. And
that'll be you.
And then I just realised, oh God, and it was right in the middle of lockdown, so everyone was sort of social distancing and whatever else, and this guy was getting frustrated, so he started bipping her, and you could just see her. Then I felt sorry for her. The poor woman is now getting nervous, and she had probably a good 15 goes. And then she just decided to leave the husband and decided to go. So she came out and she stopped, and my door was half open, I think, at that point in time. And she looked at me, she goes, I'm really sorry, I can't do it. And I said, look, I don't know you from a bar of soap, but do you mind getting out and letting me park your car?
Oh,
so I left my car there and I put it in. Then I stole her. No, I didn't. I parked the car and I just looked at the guy that was bipping. I was giving her a hard time. I just wanted to, this guy just looked at him and just, said, be nice. And I just walked off. And then she said, I know you. What's your address? I said, tell me, don't need my address. I just stole your wallet out of your car. No.
She was probably going to want to send you a doily or something.
Yeah, I think she probably wanted to. But yeah, it's just, it hasn't been road rage because there's been no one on the bloody roads, but
busy now though.
I just saw that guy and I think really busy. I think he sort of probably got what was happening and thought, you know what, I probably didn't need to pressure her because she probably would have done a lot quicker if I didn't give her a hard time and bip.
This comes up a lot, Matt, and my response to it is generally, I look at, in that situation, you just look at that that guy who's cranky and you were for a second or two, but then, you turn that around and you think, wow, what would that person's life be, or the stress they're under to be that narky on the horn to an old lady trying to park, oh, okay, well, I'm glad I'm not that sort of. Yeah. And I probably was that person a long time ago, I'd say. Always in a hurry, always doing that, so, We're going to get to that.
Are we?
Don't spoil. Hang on. Thanks, Matthew. That was a wonderful interview. Our time's up. Mate, let's talk about your regenerative journey, because I know bits and pieces of it, and I'd like you to sort of fill in a few gaps and piece it together. Tell us where it began. Where you grew up, and the sort of the changes of location, and the sort of how that might have impacted your way of thinking and your career choices. Can you sort of start us at the beginning?
Look, the beginning, strange enough, I was actually there on the weekend. I went for a big ride. We had families from Central Tablelands, Oberon, Black Springs, and there was a farm there. There was 2 farms. One was called White Springs and one was called Borkham Hills. And they were in the family. Borkham Hills probably not as long, but White Springs was in the family for a little over 100 years, from the 1850s. I think it was some sort of grant or something back in those days. They had to clear it and whatever. And then my grandfather was one of 8, I think, youngest. He got it in the end. And then he had 4 boys, one from first marriage and a daughter. His wife passed away and he remarried and had my dad being the oldest and 2 other boys. So he had 4 boys. And, I think he was a little bit more, gung-ho than the rest of the family. So he actually wanted to build. And then he sold. The daughter got married off to the Evanses, and the Evanses is still in Oberon.
Still there, yeah.
There's a lot of them around. And then Granddad sold White Springs and moved to I think it was out near Gyra, a place called Braemar, they called it. Big place.
Yep.
And good country up there, as you know, and then sold it and then bought a few places. One at Wallabadar, one at Currabubula, and I think there was another one somewhere for the boys pretty much.
Yep.
So Dad was young. Dad was only 23, I think, when he got married, maybe even 22. And he's still quite young. Dad's only 75. And Mum was 18, I think, when she had my brother, or 19, and then 20 when she had me. So we were living at Currabubula. And then I think something happened and it turned pretty bad. And I think they sort of found it a bit tough. So they were all sold in the mid-70s. And then we moved to Wyong for a year. And then Dad bought a place with the family in Badgerys Creek, which was the dairy farm, off the Perish family, which is the A2 guys now. And he owned all that property out there and made billions.
And you were how old?
I was 6, I think, when I moved to Badgerys Creek, and we were there for about 3 or 4 years, and that didn't go great, and we basically moved off that. Dad was doing a little bit of AI, I think, back in those days, to the dairy farm and whatever. So he'd travel a little bit, and we bought a place in Blacktown, 7 Hills. So we had no dough. We lost pretty much everything, I think. But they had enough money just to buy a little house in 7 Hills. And then Dad got a contract with Tooths back in those days. I think it was Tooths.
Beer.
Yeah, beer.
Yeah, right.
Of Carting Brewers Grain.
Yeah,
so he used to, and then he bought a couple of trucks, and we went to school in Blacktown, and then Dad made a bit of money and bought the place in Taralga, which is only 500 acres, with his younger brother. And then, we used to go there, being probably 11 or 12, I think, at that stage in Blacktown. Dad used to make us go there every weekend.
And Blacktown and 7 Hills is Western Sydney, for those who are not familiar with the locale. Pretty
suburban, rough. Well, back in those days, it was very rough. It gives you a good bit of, thick skin, I think. Foundation. But, Dad used to, so we used to go back to the little place. We had sheep and a couple of cows, mainly sheep, and fat lambs. So we'd go there every weekend, and we didn't have anyone living on it because it was too small. And, we'd crutch and mark and basically, be farm kids. And school holidays, caravan. And then he ended up building a little house, like 2 modular, I think they were from the army, and put them together. So they were 2 identical homes, but joined. So one side was my uncle's and the other side was Dad's. And then we'd just stay there and run amok in mini mokes and, go to the pub when we were 15, 16, play pool, drive around when we weren't allowed to and didn't have licenses and just run amok, really. But I absolutely loved it. And then, at school, I hated school. Wasn't that academic. My brother was. He's only a year older. And I said to Dad that, I want to leave school in year 10. He said, you can't leave unless you get a job. I'd been doing home science at school. The real reason I started it was me and a mate and 18 girls. And
you reckon
twice a week at lunchtime.
Odds are looking good.
Odds were looking good, and we got something to eat, like a cookie or something. I think I came last, Charlie.
You were showing your entrepreneurial skills back then,
mate. The girls and me, and I think my mate left actually, and I was the only one.
And all the boys are going, look at you, you're always doing home shit. And then they go, oh, hang on.
Well, and back in those days, and I played footy and all that sort of stuff, and kids in Blacktown weren't cooks. That just didn't happen. Maybe a baker or a butcher, I did a bit of butchery on the farm. Dad would always slaughter, our own meat, and I knew a bit about that and did a bit of work in the butcher shop. And then thought maybe a bakery because I like the idea of finishing at midday.
Forgetting the early starts.
Forgetting the early starts. And, I had no real love for food because, I'm not bagging mum or dad, but, they were very basic meals at night. It was a piece of protein and 3 veg. And, my nan was a real home cook and she, put the lamb on Saturday for a Sunday roast and the Brussels sprouts on Friday and the cauliflower on Thursday. That's what it was.
It was like,
and it was all boiled. If you're lucky, you got a bit of butter over the top of it and some salt. She baked all right, actually. She made good.
Sounds like it's like a standard Aussie.
Pretty much, I think.
Food.
Yeah. And I often get people saying, "Oh God, you got into food because you must have inherited it from your family." So I started cooking because I didn't have a decent meal until I started working in a restaurant.
That was your motivation.
I started part-time working in Parramatta RSL.
Yes, I read that. They used to have, sorry, can I just segue? I was at a school out there and Parramatta and they used to have 20-cent schooners. 20-cent schooners at the Parramatta
Aria. I went back there with Julia Zamaro on some TV show I did a couple of years ago. Hadn't changed.
Oh, really?
Hadn't changed.
And they still do the 5 o'clock little, stand up and.
Yeah, but the actual kitchen hadn't changed either. And I remember I worked Friday, Saturday nights. I was 14. I must have been 14, and it was when I was in year 10. And he'd give me $10 a night, I think. So I got $20, and I was pretty happy with that. And I remember one week, because I'd basically go in there at 4 o'clock after school, and I'd go straight to the wash up and just wash up for a couple of hours and get rid of all that stuff that they'd been doing all day. And then I remember after a couple of weeks, he said, "New job today, Matt." I said, "All right." He goes, "Yep, you're going to be chef de planche." I thought, chef de planche? Wow. What section's that? He pointed to the wash up. Chef de planche as in you plunge yourself in. And that's what the technical term was. And I remember,
you had a job title at least.
Yeah, I had a job title. But my main job was, at that point in time, when the order of the steak came in, I'd run to the cooler and get the carpet bag or the sirloin because I knew what the cuts were. So I was pretty good at that. And the guy was on the deep fry, had been there for 4 years, I think. And all he wanted to do was get on the grill, but that guy had been there for 5 years. And I thought, geez, one day if I could get on that deep fry, I'd be pretty damn happy. And he said that he'd offer me an apprenticeship at the end of the year. And I was going to be pretty happy with that. Didn't really, didn't inspire. I just thought the deep fry would be right for me one day. And had no real love for food, Charlie, to be really honest. And this is the thing that people don't really get. And the food that I saw there was pretty much, what you'd see anywhere. And I just thought, maybe I'll become a chef and I'll get, had my heart set on that apprenticeship. And at the end of the year, something had changed or whatever. I don't know what happened. And he said, "Look, I can't give it to you until July." And that meant 6 months, leaving year 10, what do I do? And Dad said, "Look, unless you get another job, you're going back to school." So I went everywhere just to try and get a chef's job. I wanted to be a cook. And I reckon I went through 20 interviews. I remember going to one place, the Harbour Watch below the below the Harbour Bridge there. I can't remember, it's Pier 1 now, I think. And the guy said to me, he said, "Great, after the interview, if the first 10 don't work out, I'll give you a call." It's all right, so I'm 11th. And it was just a ongoing thing. And I'd make these interviews and Dad would drive me everywhere, after school or whatever, because I went back to school for not very long, but a few weeks. And then I went to I made an appointment to go to this restaurant, which was in Roseville, the North Shore, which is about an hour and a half away from Blacktown on the train, because you have to go on the Central and then go back out again. And I worked out where it was, and I said, "Dad, I'm not going to go." And I was pretty disheartened. And I thought, I'll just wait for my job go to school for 6 months and then go back to the RSL. And Dad said, "No, you bloody made the appointment. You're going no matter what." I went, "All right, fair enough." So he drove me after school one day. I think it was a Tuesday or whatever. And I got in there and I realised it was a little house, cottage. And if anyone knows, La Belle Helene, it was possibly we've been in the top 5 restaurants, I reckon, probably in the state, which I didn't know that, right? So it was real full-on French fine dining, do 40 covers at night, 6 nights a week, no lunches, and it was full every night.
Roseville's not known for its sort of, that's what we'd expect.
No, I didn't know. I had no idea. To me, it was just an apprenticeship that I possibly could. When I got down there, the chef was the owner, guy called Michael de Laurence, who I still, to this day, is the most underrated, chef ever. He was technically and still is. He's a phenomenal cook.
He's still with us?
I mean, he's just about to open up another restaurant in Brisbane. He looks about 40, and he's about, God knows how old he is now, but he's, sorry, Michael. But he looks amazing. That's what I'm trying to say, Michael. You look bloody amazing for your age. And I remember, I don't know whether you'll remember this, but I remember seeing the piece of paper, and he was called out in the middle of the interview, and there was all these names with crosses next to them. And I just thought, this is my chance, And I remember saying to him when he came out, I said to him, look, I know I don't have a lot of experience. I know I'm only 15, and I know I'm from Blacktown, but, my father's made me work my whole life. I've got good work ethic. If you give me a go, I promise you won't be sorry. And I think because I said that, he said, all right, we'll come in for a trial. So I did the trial on the Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. And that was the biggest defining moment of my working career. There's no question. I went into that restaurant those 3 nights, and I remember the first night Dad came and picked me up and said, how was it? I said, Dad, you've got no idea what they do with food. Things I'd never seen before. I mean little things.
Especially French, their style.
Dad, they whip up egg whites and they put it into a mould and it blows up. They call it a souffle. And they garnish it with a strawberry that they slice and they fan it. It was. And their sauces, actually, which I didn't know that at the time, but I remember, thinking about it, their sauces are actually come from stock and bones, But the RSL, we used to get it out of a bucket and it was already thick. And that's a story in itself, because the second day I was there, Michael de Laurence, the chef owner, asked me to strain this beautiful game stock. Colander in, strained it, got the bones and took them back out to him. And he said, great, throw them out. And I turned around and I thought to myself, if I throw them out, I've got nothing left because I just strained the stock down the sink. Oh, no. I didn't know what a stock was.
I wouldn't be the first person to do that.
No. And I told him that, and you could just see the look on his face.
He's probably been sitting there for 36 hours or something.
And I thought, well, I'm gone. I'm not going to.
This is in the first 3 days?
It's the first 3 days.
Oh, no.
And he must have been desperate. I don't know. And there was another kid there who's still a dear friend. He was a year older than me. He was a second-year apprentice. And he was getting a bollocking every day. And even though I was only doing a trial, I never got a bollocking. And on the Saturday night, I was just gobsmacked. I just could not believe what they were doing with food. And that was an instant love affair. And, from being a kid in Blacktown, to doing an apprenticeship, 6 days, and we would work, minimum 12 hours a day. I was doing up to 80, 90 hours a week, sometimes 100, I reckon. And that sort of, that was just the work ethic and the OCD and everything else that came with it, just to be absolutely obsessed by it. And
do you think not having a background in food, so basically zero appreciation, I guess, and then stepping into there was a benefit? Like in some ways, you had no preconceived notion about the souffle and the fan strawberries, and that was new and exciting as opposed to.
I get asked that question a lot. No, I try to think back.
That's a shit question, then, isn't
it? No. I often try to think whether there was an appreciation of food, and I don't. There was obviously something there, with the farming and whatever else, but I never actually put those two together. And maybe it did make a difference later on, but I was so inquisitive of what they were doing with food, and I just fell in love with it. It was just something that I became obsessed by, and I just and it got worse because I remember Sundays I'd be so bloody tired, and I'd go and meet all my mates on a Sunday afternoon at the Oval, and they'd be, and I never said a word to them. I seriously never spoke about it because I just thought I was weird. I thought there was something wrong with me. I thought, why am I so different to them? Because Sunday they'd be going, I've got to go to work tomorrow. I hate my work. You know, geez, I can't wait for the weekend. And I was working Friday, Saturday nights because you only ever work nights. And I used to sit there and think to myself, why do I want to go to work tomorrow? Why do I want to go in 2 hours early to actually spend with the pastry chef to actually learn how to make puff pastry or learn how to pipe a petit four or whatever else? Why am I like that? Why can't I wait, get on that train and get to work? And, you know, that was, you know, then I realised, you know, and that mate of mine, Pete, if you ever watch this, mate, I remember when you used to get bollockings all the time. In the first year that I worked there, and I realised that, you know, I was something a little bit more special because I was never getting yelled at.
Yep.
And then, you know, by the time I was a third-year apprentice, I was sous chef there. I had all these 30-year-olds working underneath me. I was only 17 and a half.
No way.
And then Michael bought another restaurant and made me head chef there for all.
Where was that?
He bought another restaurant out west. It was a big function centre. He just wanted to make some dough, I think, and he left me there, you know, 5 nights a week, and he'd come and work with me on the Monday nights. We'd do menus and stuff, and that's when I left. I was there for 5 years, and I had started my own business making cakes and tarts for Valley Little. He used to be the editor of Delicious magazine. He had a little cafe in Roseville, so make date tarts, bagel tarts. That's where the pastry background came from. So I'd go home from La Belle at midnight, roll pastry until, you know, 1 or 2 in the morning, get up at 6, bake them all, drop them off on the way to work. I remember I had them all in the back of my car one day and someone ran into the back of me in Linfield and tarts everywhere.
Well, I was wondering because on your little videos there during the last couple of months, you did a date tart. You had the sort of the pastry and the thing and you did the dates and then you poured like a custody. Was it a custody thing over it?
Like a brulee.
I was just going, how does anyone know how to do that?
Look, you know, when I often say to people, my first business was a tart business.
There's a Confucius joke about that.
And the tarts were all smashed up in the back seat one day.
Out of context, that could mean anything. And so when did I guess there's the love of food and the craft and the sort of the artisan trade of being a chef at that time and you in your apprenticeship. At what point were you already aware of food quality, or was it more that's a tomato, I'm going to chop it up in a nice way?
Yeah, that's a great question. At La Belle, it was all about, you know, cooking and technique and refinement. And no disrespect to Michael, but it was what he'd been taught, and it was all about, you know, it was all about the basics of cooking and learning how to cook. I learned how to be a chef. Yep. I learned how to cut up things. I learned how to make pastry, and I learned how to make soufflés, and I learned how to make terrines, and I learned all that technical stuff that you really need as a chef. And I remember Chrissy Mansfield once said, you know, back in the early days, you always find a chef that's been classically trained because he can cook. He knows how to cook. It was the second job that I went to, which was the top, would still been the highest ranked 3-hat Italian restaurant in Australia, which was called The Restaurant, which was the Restaurant Manfredi. And I was at La Belle for nearly 5 years, and I gave him 3 months' notice. And I got a phone call one night when I was at La Belle, and it was Stefano Manfredi. And Stefano Manfredi to us was a god. And he said, "Oh, hi, Matt, I hear you leaving La Belle. Do you want to come work for me?" I was like, fuck. I was about to go overseas. And I thought,
so you're 20?
I was 19, actually, 19. And, turning 20, I think. And I thought, God, of course I do. So, I went there with the family. So the younger brother, Franco, who I actually used to live with Franco for a bit, the mother, and it was a real family business. But I was employed as sort of sous chef, pastry chef, but then kind of would run the kitchen when Steve was leaving it. So it's kind of like an acting head, sous, whatever, all rolled into one. And I'll be honest, I went to Manfredi. I learned how to make great pasta. Don't get me wrong. But I didn't learn any real cooking techniques because I'd done that at La Belle. What I did learn was about food. And Charlie, it was that real explosion. It was 89, and it was that real explosion. There was Barry McDonald doing Paddington Fruit Market, Simon Johnson, who was working for him then and, was into produce. John Sussman started the Flying Squid Brothers. And it was all about this seafood and veggies and stuff I'd never really seen before. And rather than being exported or, packaged up and sent wherever the prawns, Sussman was bringing them into Sydney. So we started seeing things like coffin bay scallops and, southern calamari and scampi from WA and what I learnt at Manfredi was about produce, and that was a real turning point. And then after both of those experiences, you learn how to cook, you learn about food, and then and produce, and then it was about time that I went out and did it my own. So I left there in 91 to open my own place with a guy, Peter Sullivan, who was my partner for 20 odd years. He's pretty much retired these days, Pete. But we started Paddo Inn in 91 and I was 22.
Oxford Street.
Yeah, I didn't want to be told what to do anymore. So that's, I didn't want to work for anyone anymore.
So in working on your own or for yourself, what did you learn that you wouldn't have if you just, gone to another one and worked for someone else?
Mate, I remember.
And I'm thinking, up and coming chefs, they're sort of, in that situation, they're working with someone else and they're going, you know what, I want my own little.
The ego was up there, and, it was, I was pretty hard to work for, I think, back in those days because, your name's on the door and all that sort of stuff. And, I remember saying to Pete after the first couple of months, think, how easy is this? And we've got so much money in the bank. But we had no idea about business. We just weren't paying people. We're paying our staff, of course, but we just weren't paying people. We just didn't really know what we were doing. So we kind of got Peter's wife, actually, at the time, still is, sorry, should I say. She came in and started doing the books for us. But what we'd learnt very quickly was about business. Now, I could cook and run a kitchen, Pete could run a floor, but we didn't really know where we were going. And we weren't really making money either. We were making a wage, I think. We did everything ourselves. I'd go to the markets 2 or 3 times a week, which I did for 5 years, which is great because I got to learn, all about, and I'd see produce all the time when it would come in, but I got to learn all about those characters that are at the markets, which was, experience I would never give up, but geez, it was bloody hard getting up at, 4 o'clock,
getting out
2 or 3 times a week and then have to work all day. And I used to go to the flower market and buy, what I used to buy, what are those ones that Barry Humphries loved so much?
Oh, gladdies.
And I'd do the flowers.
Oh, really?
Mate, I'd do anything and everything because we had no dough either. And it was a great learning experience. We made, we got a chef's hat there when I was 23.
Yeah, nice.
We were really busy. We got a name for ourselves. We got heaps of press. And it was a bloody great experience. But, we realised the business side of things, we had to surround ourselves with people that knew more than what we did. And we learned from that. And that set us on our way. And then, 95, Moran's came in and then opened a little French bistro called Bon Femme, Darlinghurst with Genevieve Copeland. It was my old apprentice. I had a place, not many people know this, I had a place in the city in Pitt Street with Kirk Pangilly out of In Excess. My best mate at the time. It still is one of my best mates, buddy. It was also in my bridal party 20 years ago. So we've been mates for a long time. So we had a little restaurant there that it's now called Minx and has been for 20 odd years now. It's one of the top strip joints in the city.
I was going to say, I've only heard about it.
I've never been back, but they bought it and turned into a great strip joint. Apparently.
Yes.
It wasn't good for my image or Kirk's to do. When they actually said they came and said we want to buy it, and we weren't making any dough out of it. I think we lost a bit of money actually. And they said the strip joint. I said, Kirk, maybe we should. And he's like, no.
Did you say you can have the restaurant, but we just want like free membership? So I mean, the kickback we need.
Didn't get that. And then sold them all to do Aria. And then that's and Aria was to me was the that was the big one. That was the biggest fit
That's
out.
the jewel in the crown.
Jewel in the crown. And spent God knows how many hours. We actually closed for the first 6 months on Sundays just so we'd have a day off because we knew that we'd never have a day off. And that went for a couple of years like that, a few years that we just worked ourselves to the bone. And I suppose that's another big pivotal moment, do we stay in Aria and have one restaurant? I think we just opened Opera Bar, but we really wasn't in there. I wasn't in there. I was still in the kitchen at Aria. And it was that point of, do we actually get bigger or do we just have one restaurant for our rest of our lives and be happy and make that the best? Or do we have these incredible staff around us, and do we start to expand? And that was another big turning point, I suppose, is where we decided to get bigger and give other people opportunities. And why, I suppose, even now we've had so many people. The girl at the front desk at Aria has been there for 21 years, and prior to that she used to be at them. So we've had a lot of staff that have been with us for a long period of time.
And a couple of things there. For those who don't know, Aria is one of Sydney's most, I was not to say prestigious because I don't really like the word, but it's one of the most popular and well-known and everyone has a soft spot for Aria.
Yeah, and there's so many great stories that have come out of Aria. A lot of great cooks have been there, chefs, cooks. They've gone on to do amazing things and now own their own empires. There's been a lot of great memories there, and we'll continue. We've been shut, obviously, COVID, and we're it has the Opera House that it relies on. It has tourism that it relies on. It has corporates that it relies on. But we're reopening it slowly. So Bastille Day, 14th of July, my daughter's birthday also. We're reopening only 5 nights a week and just see how we go. And we're slowly going to open it back up. But Aria is a very important place for me to reopen because it is a jewel in the crown.
And with expansion, Matt, what would, and again, I'm sort of in the context of those listeners, and it's not just about chefs listening, but other people. What are some of the things that you had to do or did do to sort of expand in that what was working at Aria was systems in place and processes and the right people. What was it that allowed you to successfully almost inoculate a new location with the same sort of vibe and the same sort of process?
Well, that's when someone else came in. My old landlord at Paddington Inn, Bruce Solomon, who was a barrister. He always says he wasn't much of a barrister, and his family were in pubs. So he always says I went from one bar to the other. And it's a strange thing because he was my landlord at Paddington Inn, and I went to him one day. I was a kid, right? And he took the punt on me being 22 to run his pub bistro. And he did. He knew me from Manfredi, so he knew that I could cook. And in many ways, he became a friend, but he also became a mentor. He was older, wiser, smarter, and I learnt a lot from him, and just having a friendship. And when I told him I wanted to sell Paddington Inn, and I was looking for somewhere else, and I didn't really have anything else. And God knows why you do that. You go to your landlord and say, "I want to sell, but I want something else, and I don't have it yet. Can you help me?"
Yeah.
And
no.
Well, you would think that's the case, and that's what you would think. And he said to me, "Look, I'll keep an eye out for you." And this is a bizarre story because it used to confuse me for a couple of years as to why he did that. And he said, I remember him saying some words to me. So he actually came to me one day and said, "Matt, I know you've got a buyer, and I've got a mate that's got this building. He's not in real hospitality. He opened it as a cafe, and he's just bought a pub in the city that he wants to renovate called CBDO Hotel. And that was their first pub. That's the Hemmings family. Yeah. It was John Hemmings, Justin's father.
CBDO was the first one.
Yeah, and he had Maryvale, which was the used to be the Giraffe restaurant in Potts Point. And he said, look, he wants to get out of it, and he's asked me if I was interested. He said, look, he probably won't just give it to you, but if I say to him, that I'm going to go in with you and I'll pull out at the last minute and you can have it. And I always thought, why the freaking hell would you do that to me? Why would you actually, help me do that? And I'm leaving your venue. And he said, Matty, you never know, one day I might want your help, and you've done the right thing by me. And I was like, and we became very close after that. And then that's how Aria came, because he came down to Aria and said that they were going to tender it. And I'd never seen it. And it was a toaster building. Everyone hated it. And he came down and we'd opened those other restaurants. He wasn't never part of that. And Bruce said, I've got this site. Can you have a look at the kitchen for me and, give me some plans and whatever else? And I said, yeah. And then he said, look, I'm going to do it. Can I tend to put your name and you pull out and whatever? And there's something about it I can't quite remember, but it went along those lines. And then he said, look, I'm looking for a chef and a young kid that might want to do it. I'll even give him a bit of a share of it. He can pay it back 5%, 10%, whatever else. he says it's just the best location. And he says, you should come down and have a look. So I went and had a look and I went, oh my God, what an incredible view. And this is when it was a shell. And
so this is overlooking the harbour. For those who don't know, the Toaster building, it's sitting there in the quay.
98, 99, And I said to him, I said, mate, you want me to do it? And he said, you'd have to sell the other venues. And I said, I'd do it on one proviso that, the two companies are 50-50. And I suppose that's why it's always worked out with Bruce. And we're still great partners and still own a lot of stuff together. We ended up buying the property together at Aria and stuff. And we've got a great partnership. But it's always been on that basis that we've been equal. So equal say, I suppose. That's been and I ended up buying Peter out of that side of it. But Peter left. Oh God, mate, 5-6 years ago now. I'm still missing. Don't get me wrong. But and now Bruce is sort of a little bit older, and his kids are coming in, which is great because I've got a great relationship with them, and they're very bright kids. And it's kind of even though you don't feel as though you're older than them, there's a real young direction coming into the business, which is a good thing too.
And with the moving to other venues, so you Aria. And
did I answer your question? I probably just went on another role, didn't I?
Not yet. So what was, apart from, I guess, it's a really important thing, having a great business partner.
Yeah.
Because that's you're contributing different skill sets to the operation.
Yeah, we are. And, it's run under a management company. So there's two management companies that, there's mine and Bruce's, and we do our own thing and we bring different things to it. And people often comment, about Bruce being the silent partner. And I call him the not so silent partner because, it was really hard at Aria being a chef and having the ego, and this is what I want to do and this is how I want to do it. And would have food tastings. We've got one today. At Aria. And Bruce, would come to the food tastings and he would say, Matt, you should do this and do that. You don't know what you're talking about. You're not a cook. Just do it how I want to do it. And that took me a little while to sort of work out. And the ego slowly went, and what he brought to the table was a customer's point of view. Otherwise, I'd be having sweetbreads and pig's heads on everything. Do you know what I mean? Like that's what chefs do. And that really opened my eyes. And I think a lot of chefs that have worked for me over the years, they've also gone through that process too of, the customer. And that's only going to make their restaurant better. It's not just about what they want to cook and being a real, chef's kitchen. It's about, thinking about other people and what their needs are.
Keeping their feet on, keeping the chef's feet on the ground.
100%. And that's what Bruce and Peter, I think, Peter's not part of it now, but Bruce, really brought to the table is where, and even today in the tasting, it's fun. I actually, he's often saying that I don't need to go to a food tasting at North Bondi Fish or, the Art Gallery or whatever else. But I think it's always really important that he comes to that Aria tasting because he does love Aria just as much as I do, and he eats there more than anybody. He never pays, but apart from that,
we'll catch up. We'll catch up. Matt, I want to talk about, I guess, the industry, and we've had a number of chats over the last little while about, I guess, the incidence of suicide in the industry, and it's and my sense is it seems that maybe I didn't know about it some years ago, my sense is that it's there seems to be more of that happening in the industry, and maybe it's always sort of been a bit of a characteristic. Why do you think? What is it about the hospitality industry, the restaurant industry that is? I know. Why is that so?
Look, I think a lot of it's there's a bit of legacy there from what it used to be like in the early days. Man up, harden up. You do the hours. You do the days. You do the stress, and it is high stress. There's no question. You got 100 diners in there that want their food here, and they don't know what goes on the back, and they're demanding and whatever else. And you're sitting there and you're being pressured, and it's changed a lot when it comes to hours and what you do. But it's all about how tough are you and how how many hours can you do in a week? And this is what we do. And it just, even after LaBelle, I was worn out for a little while, because we were doing massive hours and never suffered from any sort of, mental illness or whatever. But I remember at LaBelle being 19 thinking, I'm burnt. I've lost my teenage years, really have lost my teenage years because I worked every Friday, Saturday night and Sundays. I was too stuffed to do anything. And Manfredi was a little bit easy because it was less hours, but then I went back into the long hours. But, that was not just talking about me, but it was a real legacy for young chefs. And that's just what you did. Expectation of just working really hard and not probably having the support. And I think, a lot of groups now are really taking that on board and helping in whatever way that they can. We talk about those chefs that I know that have, suicide, and they all had characteristics of mental health and all common knowledge. And I suppose you just don't know when someone's going to do it. But yeah, there was a spate of them over a period of time, and that really brought a lot of it. But there's a lot of other people that weren't famous or weren't well known that were killing themselves too. And I think there's a lot more openness, I think, happening in our industry, and there's a lot more talking about it. And if someone there's a lot more care involved. But it really came down to the culture that was in kitchens, the aggressiveness that were in kitchens, and just the hard work and being a perfectionist, and things just ticked. And I know with two of those three guys, those big high profile guys, they had their own businesses, and there was pressure and financial issues, and then one was working for someone else, and always suffered from bipolar, and it was tragic. And all three of those guys were pretty good mates.
It's not dissimilar.
We're talking about Jeremy Strode.
Yeah.
Justin Bourne, Tony Bourdain.
Yeah. It's not dissimilar to the situation in farming, is
No.
it? I mean, and you're pretty close to that sort of world as well.
And probably just as much, if not more. Farmers, as you know, they're very proud people. They always have been, and they don't. I look at my father, and it's they don't like to go to doctors, to dentists for any reason.
Asking for help, no.
And let alone saying, hey, you know what? The stress of this is really hurting me. There's no way. And, what worries me is, we know farmers and suicide, but how many of them are suicide that hit trees?
I think I know a few. People that that has happened, and it's not something you really want to put on the table.
No,
no, you don't suspect.
Farming. As you know, the older I've got, the more passionate I am about, and the more I want to do with my place. Because the farming, Dad had Taralga, and he sold it and bought a bigger place, and with my uncle, and then three of us bought the place we've got now, the bigger place. Then I bought my uncle out, and Dad and I are obviously partners in it, and Dad's works on the farm, and Dad's a great farmer, but I've got to keep the costs every now on top of it. We're doing some new things. We're going to do you've seen the place down in Gundagai that's got those little eco places, Kimo, I think they call it, Kimo Estate. I'm going to put little eco places around the farm.
Little dwelling,
little cabins that you can rent out.
Really?
Yeah.
Are they sort of semi-permanent, or so they're not sort of like
no, they're permanent. They're permanent.
Right.
And my brother's in the building game, so he's going to come along for the ride, and we're going to build. We're going to put 3 or 4 of them first off, and they all have their own access from the road, so I won't even see them. We can put little packs there and a little barbecue, and I've got these guys from New Zealand that make these incredible stainless steel wood-fired bathtubs or hot tubs.
Oh, nice.
And it's fire up, so you've got to build your fire and whatever, and you hit your
outside
water up.
view.
Yeah, view, and then
cool.
Power comes from the battery and solar. Rainwater tank underneath. Might have to, hopefully in the dry parts, might have to top that up a little bit, but pretty much self-sufficient. You go in, you punch in a code, you stay there. and you can do a pack and barbecue if you want, and you just stay there for the weekend or whatever, and the guy at Gundagai, he's got 3 of them. You can't get in for 2 years.
Really? I'll have to check that out.
Unbelievably busy.
Really?
So we've just quoted them up, and hopefully we're going to start building and have them hopefully by Christmas early next year.
We some years ago looked at we got some plans made up to put some yurts, sort of a bit of an area and a bit of a I think it was 8 or 10 and do that sort of thing, but that sort of went by the wayside. And we sort of thought we actually don't know if we want all these people near us all the time.
And that's the part of the issue that Dad had. But if they come in off the tar on the high side of the property, which has beautiful views, you won't see them.
No.
And you give them a map and tell them where to go, because you obviously don't want them to go on the bull paddock or whatever.
Going to the killer paddock. What killers?
Tell them where to go, and there might be snakes and whatever else. But I think people might go for a bit of a wander or a walk or whatever, but they won't go far. And they just have a code, they log in, and they come in, they leave, you don't even see them.
Tell me, Matt, about the sort of the completion of the cycle almost of you were on a farm, you grew up on a farm, that farm, you moved on a number of times, and now, many years later, you're back in a farming situation. What does that mean to you as a restaurateur and a chef and that connection with food, and what does it mean to your dad, do you think?
Charlie, it is, there's no question the farm's my happy place. There's no question in the world. When I anyone that knows me, when I go to the farm and they're with me, it's just relaxed. And, it's just, for any reason, I just love the air, I love the farming, I love the animals, and I want to do more with it. As I get on, I don't think I'll ever go back there full time. But my life is in the city. My kids love it. It means a shitload to my father. I'm very close to my dad. I'm close to all my family, but particularly because I spent a bit of time there. I think it means the world to him. Dad's a country guy. He's never really shows his emotions, but a lot more in the last few years. He'll actually say things to me that he's never said. And there's one thing that really got me. He said, I want my kids to come to the farm as much as possible. I want to spend time with them that I never got to spend with you guys. And that kind of, showed me that he got a bit softer in his ears. But it means the world to him to have that farm and live on it and do what we do. And he loves his farming. We've got some great pigs at the moment. In fact, I've got a ham for you.
I've been watching.
I'll give you a ham before you go.
Really?
Yeah, I've got some ham bacon out the back.
Unreal.
From those Berkshires.
I've been salivating your Moran ham and pork on the.
Where you headed after? Are you going to Bora or are you back up north?
I'm not telling you the secret.
Not Victoria.
I've got who am I interviewing today? Who am I? Who's the president? Who's the Prime Minister at the moment? Scott Morrison.
You got him?
I'm not him.
No.
No, not him. No, I'm Dr. Ron Ehrlich. I'm actually interviewing today as well.
Yeah.
The holistic dentist and Sarah Wilson.
Oh yeah. I know Sarah.
Yeah, tonight is the plan.
Tonight?
Yeah. But I'm leaving town tomorrow. I'm driving my stepdaughter's car up the coast.
Right.
To do a few more interviews up there. Now a couple of quick little wins. I'm looking at the time and we're just maxing out, but I'm really enjoying it. Tell me some quick ones.
Man, you got a lot out of me.
I know. I
Jesus
have that
Christ, I got a bit emotional there at one point.
Didn't I?
I was thinking about my pineapple.
The rough end of the pineapple.
The rough end of the pineapple.
Olive oil.
Yeah.
Is that can we heat up olive oil and cook with it, or is it best on a salad?
No, mate. Olive oil to me is a flavouring. Once you heat it to a certain temperature, you've ruined it anyway. You maybe a pomace oil, which is a lighter oil with veggie. Grapeseed oil, I reckon, is the best. A little more expensive,
for cooking.
Just for cooking because it's neutral.
Like
and olive oil, it should be in a dressing or drizzled over the top.
Resting steak or not?
Oh, you have to. It's even if it's only a couple of minutes, unless it's really thin, right? Unless it's a minute steak, you have to rest it and let those juices sort of come back into it. Really important.
And that you put some foil, or you just sit it there?
Just sit it there, and then you flush it back on the grill or whatever you want. I did the other day. I did some bloody short ribs, smoked them at home, and my son said to me, "That's the best thing he's ever eaten in his life." I just in the blue In the green egg.
The egg, yeah.
God, it was good.
Actually, I saw that one.
Bloody good.
That looks like a Ripper's machine.
I've just ordered a whole brisket. Got one at the farm too.
You're showing off now.
Yeah,
This guy's a chef. He's talking about food. Advice for young chefs.
that's an easy one. That's
is it?
Yeah, don't do it for fame and glory. Do it because you have a passion for it and you love it, because it's just too damn God bloody hard. Great advice I can give to anyone, and I say this to my kids all the time: do what you love in life, and you'll never have to work another day. And don't get me wrong, I have bad days, but I still get excited about food. And that pineapple. I've been looking at it all day.
The one, actually, you should see it, for those who can't see it. It's sitting up on a plinth.
Yeah.
It's not like in the ground amongst a whole of other pineapple. It's like the pride of place in the middle of the garden.
Mate, and I'll explain that, because we've been here for many, many years, and I think that's the third pineapple we've had. That takes it's not pineapple country. That takes a couple of years to get to that point. So that hasn't gone up over 6 months. That's been there for at least 18 months, that pineapple. And now,
right. They do take a long time,
yeah, you're here on the day that I'm going to cut it, and I'll put it on my Instagram.
We're going to do that.
Yeah,
it's actually a magnificent pineapple. It's not like some little half baked thing that's gone. It's just struggled. It's like it's going. I am. If Martians came down and said, "I need a pineapple to take back," that is the one.
And it's yellow and it'll be sweet, and I'm going to take the top of it off and replant that.
Is it a Bethunga Gold? They were the pinnacle.
They were.
Dad used to only.
I don't know whether there is a Bethunga Gold, but it's. I remember having one, and I specialed. I think I only got 2 portions out of it, but I think we're going to eat that today. You and I.
I can't wait. We better wrap it up. No, I got a couple more. We've done that one. If I've done the chef one, just a quick one on COVID, because I don't know when this is going to sort of drop into the world, but was there? You mentioned before that it sort of brought out the best and the worst in people. What from your point of view, what has it sort of developed in you or made you consider differently, or the pivots you've made in your personal life and business?
Look, it's in our world, it's been horrible. It's been devastating, and I don't think we're going to come back from it for a long period of time. I'm trying to think of the positive things out of it, that rather than the negative. One positive is that it questions yourself and how much do you want and need. And it's probably been a great reset at the same time. We're not out of it, but hopefully. And the other thing was, my son, who has been in Melbourne studying, and he came back at the beginning of it. And one night he said, "Geez, Dad, it could be a lot worse." And I said, "How could that be worse, Harry? What's just happened? And all my business is shut down." He goes, "You could be at home with your mum and dad, and they could be really shit cooks."
Good call.
And what it made me think, if someone sort of mentioned this to me, like if in 20 years' time, if someone came to you, Charlie, and said, "You know what, you're going to have a really shit year. It's going to cost you a lot of money. The world's going to change, but I'm going to give you, 6 months at home, chilling out with your family and kids. Would you take it?" Fuck yeah. Because you're never going to get that time again. And, and to have, Harry around and Amelia around, it's just been, I don't publicly talk about my kids, but it's just been great.
No one's going to listen to this, mate.
No.
Harry
and I, on Saturday nights, we were drinking Negronis, and he's drinking H. Harry and I were drinking Negronis on Saturday nights and playing cards and, and having a great time.
Doing things you would not normally have done.
Never do. And it's that part of it. And even Harry said to me, he goes, I could be in Melbourne studying with my mates, or I could be up here and I've got some mates that I can see. He goes, what I don't have in Melbourne is don't have family. So, he's going back at the end of this month to study, because he's found the study pretty hard, by himself. But, it's not complete lockdown in Victoria yet. So hopefully, next semester might be a bit easier for him. But yeah, look, I've been thinking the positive and not the negative, and I'm pretty resourceful. So I've been doing Zoom videos everywhere for companies and.
Mate, you've been on. You totally social media just gone bananas. It's fantastic because it's giving people some inspiration. They're stuck in their kitchens.
Yeah.
They're buying a new set of pans. They're getting on your machine and going, oh, this is.
Yeah, and that's been fun. And I've been making a bit of money out of the corporate stuff and doing, live cooking classes. And I've got 2 yesterday, I think, coming up. One next week and one the week after, and that's been a bit of fun too.
I love the expression. It's one I don't think of often enough, but it's one that I do rely on sometimes. Is how do I see this as a gift?
Yeah, it's true, isn't it? Yeah, and the positiveness out of it, But yeah, look, at the same time, it's been pretty shit. I remember at the beginning of it, we had a board meeting and we were talking about, God, what would this do if it, affected 10% of revenue? What would it do if it did 20% of revenue? And someone just laughed and said, can you imagine if it did 50%? As if 3 weeks later, we'll shut. We had none.
No. But you're still here.
We're still here.
Let's talk about positive things. Thankful for farmers.
Yep.
We actually got to meet. I should have studied English a bit better at school. Got to meet at the Delicious Food Awards last year, and Thankful for Farmers is an organisation that had created an award or an opportunity for someone, and I happened to be that person at that time.
That was purely this, and this is a great thing from the people watching. It was the award let you come to New York, and that's how we met and hung out. And we went up to the university and Cornell, and spent a bit of time and had a few dinners. And that was stressing me out because I thought, God, this guy's going to win, and I've just agreed to bloody hang out with him in New York. What happens if he's a dick?
and I am, and it was a horrible trip.
It's my man crush, Charlie.
Well, the feeling's mutual, mate.
Yeah, I know, buddy. I know, mate.
I don't get to just read your cookbooks anymore. I get to catch up every now and again.
And we needed to be doing more of it.
Yeah, we do. So Thankful happened, and you're an ambassador. Tell us about sort of its role in the world. What it's going to do.
Yeah, look, Thankful for Farmers is, and hopefully a lot of people don't realise that now that it's rained that farmers are out of all the drought issues and the issues they have with mental health and when the guys came to me about it years ago, when Thankful first started, it wasn't farmers. It's just thankful for what we are and what we've got. And to me, it just made sense. And when they came back and Kim said, what can we do in Australia? And we're talking about farmers. It's just a no-brainer. Our farmers are, so important, especially now, with the export thing that's happening and whatever else. And in my life and what I do, if I didn't have farmers, I wouldn't be who I am because I rely on that and the produce that they bring. And I did that show years ago, Paddington Inn, and that show really was just, it was the best show for me because I got to travel around Australia and meet incredible guys that are really passionate. And I was just really the facilitator of telling their story. And every farmer's got a great story to tell.
Totally.
And they're all so passionate about what they do, and they just never really, get the credit that they need and deserve. And how hard it is, and I see both sides of it. I'm lucky that I have another income from my farm that, otherwise we wouldn't be on it. Because there have been some lean years. And I just think that, as a community and as a nation, our farmers have done it too bloody tough. In every, even when it comes down to growing bloody fruit and veg, they've just had the hard end of the stick. Dairy farmers, been doing a lot of work with Dairy Australia in the last 12 months. Yeah. And hopefully I will continue no matter what. We had a dairy farm and, 20-odd thousand dairy farms 20, 30 years ago to 5,000. Rate we're going to be buying milk from New Zealand. We can't let that happen.
No, we can't do that.
We can't let it happen. And, I just think that, we as my industry, because we rely on farmers and we've got to look after them a little bit more. And, we obviously work hand in hand with those guys. I during COVID, I say that the best 2 days of my life, which is the produce awards. And this year it was done very differently because every Wednesday I'd get boxes. So I got, from the earth, and I had all this, and I've got a photo of my table was covered in all this produce, and which is great because I was home, so I was cooking the whole time. The next week it was all seafood, and it was all meat and poultry and pork the next week. It was just, I was just like a pig in shit.
So different format because of
we weren't with the other guys.
No, yeah.
And which is bad because I love the banter with the other chefs. Ella and I, we love to hate each other. No, we don't. We love each other, but we love to argue about what's good and what's bad. She's very Victorian centric. But I do.
Let's not talk about Victoria. Right?
No. I do love those guys, and it's great to be part of it and taste it. But it was really good to actually have it and spend time. And because normally we'd get someone to come in and cook, all the meat and all the fish, and Josh would cook all the fish for us. So it's actually nice to do it on our own in our own time. So I was making some bloody great dishes.
They look fantastic.
I was having a lot of fun.
The smell-o-vision.
And why I love it so much is I'm sitting there judging the best produce in Australia, and God, how lucky am I to be able to do that? And God, we are so lucky. We have the best produce in the world. There's no question whatsoever, and it's only getting better and better.
It's just a segue away from Thankful there for a minute. Talking about produce, we went to Italy, family and I, last year for a couple of months, and a long-awaited trip. And Angelica, my wife, is half Italian, so that's why we're Italy. And I can't tell you how often we would just long for some Aussie, salads and just that variety and that creativity. Don't get me wrong, the pastas were incredible and the scenery and everything. I didn't have a bad meal there, but just it was like we were feeling a bit spoilt here, aren't we? We are spoilt. We're spoilt for choice. And look, you go back to when I first started cooking, and you go to your crisper, and there would be an iceberg lettuce. Yeah. True. Yeah. Yeah, that was it.
Don't get me wrong, I love iceberg.
Is there any other kind?
And then there was a cos. Wow. And now,
yeah.
We might have sometimes 10 varieties. There might be 100 varieties now that we can buy. That's just a continuation, I suppose, of what's been started. And even now, I find things that I've never seen before. And it's a great industry to be in, and that's why it's never a dull moment because everything's always changing. And those things, those seeds and those varieties have always been there. It's just that there's a resurgence, this heirloom and the traditional things and keeping that seed sovereignty. I think it's a really wonderful, like Diggers, Diggers Club and those guys who are just they're protecting those you call them a resource, but they're assets. They are, and that's as a cook, to have different things all the time is great to use, and they get better too. The more people get into it. I remember the first heirloom tomatoes that came in; they weren't that great, and people just took a little bit more care in them and nurtured it a bit more, and now we've got some great stuff. It's some great stuff, but also we should be using it in season also. Seasonality. Now let's get back to Thankful because I wanted to sort of I understand. Yeah, what's your role there, Matt, and how does that sort of what are Thankful doing in the world? Thankful for farmers doing in the world. Look, we're obviously COVID knocked us around a bit, and I've been talking to Kim and Mike's birthday yesterday actually. Happy birthday, Mike. Happy birthday. 35. 35. No, it's 85, isn't it? Okay. I think he might have been 50. I mean, it's everyone somewhere in the middle. Everyone's 50, as far as I'm concerned, which is a new 30. Thankful for Farmers is it's about it's not just about giving money; it's about educating. And I think a lot of farmers are very staid in their ways, and I think they need to, they whatever way we can help with technology and make it more progressive rather than sort of just doing what they've always done. And a lot of them are guilty of that. And diversify, I think, is really important for farmers for what they can do. I remember at White Springs, my father used to say that we used to just grow potatoes all the time. It used to be a bit wetter back in those days, I think, too. But diversification on my farm, pigs, sheep, cattle, little cabins. I want to do chooks. There's a million things that I want to do, and I want to change the farming philosophy a lot more too. That's hard when you've got someone stuck in their ways. But Thankful for Farmers is, whenever you see it, the logo. If you're buying something or someone's supporting it, you know that it's going to good. And Kim and Mike are just salt of the earth, bloody good people.
Unreal, aren't they?
They're just good people. And, we're talking to people at the moment trying to get a bit of a Paddington plate thing back up again, and it might be renamed, to help with that interest. There's a lot of, I think we've got a meeting with them next week. There's a lot of opportunity coming up. Right.
Yeah, so thankful, they partner with brands. There's the logos on products. You find them in that, and a percentage of what they're selling goes to basically a fund, which is then used to help farmers, change their, improve as it were, or be more regenerative in their approach, or help community, or help the uptake of mental health, which is another one. Matt, we better. You've probably got a tasting to go to. You've got the best job in the world.
I do. Hard work tastings. It's more about you got to go and taste all this beautiful food that Joel's going to cook at Aria. Right?
What a horrible gig. Yeah, but I think I'm out of questions there.
Hey?
Yeah, I have. I think we've covered them. We've jumped all over the place.
Yeah, I do that.
But you didn't actually need much prompting, to be honest, because one last question before. Yep. No, it's two. I'll make them quick. You've mentioned a few of your mentors already. Is there anyone else that you sort of, not just to acknowledge, but just to sort of, I don't know, just I guess acknowledge that have been important in your life, and it doesn't have to be like a chef. It could be some, I don't know.
Oh, look, any chef is a mentor to me, and there's people that I've looked up to, over the years, the Australian chefs, Tetsuya and Neil and Stefano and all those sort of guys, my mates overseas, Gordon and whatever, and what they've achieved and what they were when, we all first started out and how we've done all right. Hard times at the moment. There's been people over the years that have come in and out of my life that I've sort of, grabbed onto and learned as much as I possibly can. I don't probably need to name who they are. They know who they are. Whether it's in business or whether it's in life. Our industry is very tight and a lot of people don't realise that. A lot of people think that we are competitive and that we all don't like each other. We actually all are really good mates. I remember the TV chefs when I was on TV, everyone used to say that person hates that person hates that person, but they don't get it. We actually are all really good friends and we're trying to support each other as much as we can through this whole, drama that we've got. They're my mentors. You're my mentor, buddy. What I've learned from you.
Well, we'll swap notes. I'm learning. I'm not generally allowed in the kitchen, but I can do it vicariously via your Instagram. It's great. And if you had, Matt, a billboard on the side of the highway somewhere, what would, and you're allowed to write anything on it, what would it say?
Be kind. Be kind. And I'm sure a lot of people say that, but, it's not hard to put yourself in someone else's position and look through their eyes. And I've been thinking about that. A lot of therapy lately.
Because of the COVID thinking.
Oh, no, just, I think it's just good to talk to people, I think. And, something that I've learned is, it's put yourself in other people's positions. And I think that's really, really important. I've seen some things that haven't been great, and people going, oh, that person's been really horrible, blah, 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 because, they're not inconsiderate and, that person probably hasn't paid rent for a month or so, Think of the person that's on the other side that, needs that just as much, So I think it's just try and be kind as much as you possible and think about what other people are going through at the same time.
You know what, that is other people have said that, be kind, and I think it's wonderful because there's a theme, and if that's where our collective consciousness is going, and I'm only just plucking a few from here and there, I think that's a really good thing. It's why wouldn't you be? Why wouldn't want to be kind?
And we've been in this horrible situation. We're coming out of it, so just take it easy. Be kind to your waiter when you go to a restaurant.
Oh, totally. And look them in the eye. And for those who've been in hospital, and I used to do some work at the Lord Dudley there and at the Sheaf. Actually, Luke used to work he was at the Sheaf. Years ago, I was a glassy and a barman there. It's a wonderful learning. It's a wonderful industry for people to learn people skills and social skills.
Yeah.
Because you are at the receiving end of so much.
Yeah, you are. And, I had Harry working at Opera Bar over Christmas time. And it's good for him.
Well, my mum actually said I finished uni and I was a bit of a loose end and I thought I better go home to the farm. And she said, why don't you go and work in Sydney in a pub for a couple of years? And I did. And I tell you what, I learned so much.
I bet you had a lot of fun there too, Charlie.
I did at the Dudley down there, and it hasn't changed much. Jamie Couchet, you are a legend. Thank you for all the lessons and the stories that you tell. Mate, talking about stories, Matt, thank you so much for the stories you've told us today. I can't tell you what an honour it is to be sitting here in Chiswick. Chiswick.
Let's go slaughter a pineapple.
Yeah, that's it. And then you got to go and taste some yummy food.
Yep.
Thanks, mate. It was so fun.
Love you.
Well, there you go. I so enjoyed my chat with Matt at his restaurant, one of his signature restaurants there in Mallara, Sydney, called Chiswick, and the taste of that pineapple is still in my mouth. It was absolutely insane. Next week, I am very excited to release Hamish Mackay. Hamish, we're going to explore the world of biodynamics. Hamish and I have been running courses for many years now. Met Hamish about 15 years ago. Certainly changed my life in introducing a concept that really resonated with me. It really put a lot of structure around the farming we just embarked on, that's a different type of farming, regenerative farming. My respect and reverence for Hamish grows daily, and every time we do a workshop I learn something new. So that's up next week, and very excited to explore the world of biodynamics with Hamish. He is, dare I say, one of the most well-versed biodynamic practitioners and teachers in the world. Looking forward to that one next week with Hamish Mackay.
This episode was brought to you by Food. From the farmer, producer, housewife or chef, biodynamic and organic is definitely best. Pulled from the soil, plucked from the vine, nourishing your body, then washed down with wine. Cook it with friends and family too. Support your local farmer because they are good to you. This podcast is produced by Rhys Jones at Jaeger Media. If you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to subscribe, share, rate and review. For more episode information, please head over to www.charliearnott.com.au.